conversations that Joyce had actually made me feel like we should talk about this. So, have you guys gotten a chance to see her TED Talk, Kimberly Crenshaw?
Yeah, I did get a
No,
minute to
I
watch it.
haven't seen it. Oh man, I know it's good. It has to be really good.
Oh,
It was very
it's
moving.
motivational. Yeah, it's inspirational. It's informative, but it's also it makes me kind of emotional, you know. And the way that she relates it, she starts out basically talking about police brutality and like when you guys hear about police brutality against um people of color and specifically black people, do you feel like you hear the same type of coverage when it's somebody that's a black male opposed to when it's a black female?
Um, no, like when it's a black female, I feel like the reaction isn't the same. I feel like the protest and all of that seem to jump off when it's a male. So it's very imbalanced.
What about you, China?
I feel like I never I feel like I always had to seek out the information for females, whether it be like they come up missing or if someone has actually got killed by the police. I why do I have to seek that information out? Why isn't it like in the daily rotation of the media? Because I could have swore the media was about important things.
Right.
I feel a type of way because it's like they're telling me that we're not important, and we have a huge part in society. So I don't understand how that makes sense. You know what I mean?
I feel like I noticed that too when it came to George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, just the way that the cases were prioritized different, considering that the Breonna Taylor case happened first, and the fact that what, triggered the outrage was actually George Floyd's case. And it's always a sticky subject because you want there to be justice no matter what for the black community. But when it gets to the intersectionality between gender and race and how we deal with that, it becomes this thing where I feel less safe, as a black woman, feeling like if it were to happen to me, I'm not going to be as protected as it would be if it was another black man.
Agreed and well stated. And that's why I think it's great that Rosalind Page, came out with Black Femicide US, because I had no idea that black women and girls were being murdered every 5.5 to 6 hours. First it was 6, then it went down to 5.5, and now I believe it's at 5 hours in the United States. And it just does something to me. It makes me very emotional because it's above the 90% percentile. It's black men doing it. So we have to not only deal with racism, but we also have to deal with misogynoir coming from our own men. But then we're supposed to protest for them. We're supposed to put our issues as black women to the shelf for our men. And I just feel like we don't get any appreciation for that. There's like no gratitude, or very, very little gratitude. And I feel a way about that.
I agree 100%. That's I oh my gosh. When that George Floyd stuff broke out, I was devastated. Man, when I heard him cry out for his mother, as a mother, I heard him. You know what I mean? So for me to feel that and feel the need to go out there and march in a completely conservative state where I could see sniper rifles set up at the top of the buildings across from the Capitol, and I'm sitting here getting tear gas canisters to my face, I feel a type of way about it because I don't see men going through that same any type of energy like that. I don't see that at all. And if I do, it's very, very rare. It's nowhere near, and it's very imbalanced at this point. I don't see the love, and it's not making me want to lift a finger for a man anymore. It's making me very bitter. I'm not gonna lie.
Right. It's almost like I've always felt very strongly that some of these people that practice misogyny and misogynoir while also being a person of color, um, how do I say this? I feel like there's always this ability for them to effortlessly move from identity to identify, or, you know, one minute they're a black male, the next minute they're just a male. You know, especially they understand the cancelization of the race issue amongst other black people, but won't necessarily call it what it is. And two examples that I have to your point, Chyna, was I noticed that in politics, we will still continuously down Candace Owens. And I mean, that's neither here nor there. But when Trump was running, there were several pop culture black men that came out to support him. And we just like forgave them and, you know, didn't care because at that point they had transferred over from rich or from male or black men to rich male. And so they didn't care what they were doing. They were doing what was good for their pockets. And it just continuously, you know, pick and choose. They can pick and choose where they want to be while effortlessly forcing us to always be in that category. But also, I see that they do that in some cases where it benefits them. Like the second point, there was a young man that was, you know, he wasn't like infamous or anything, but he was with somebody that was kind of famous, and he was black male dating a white woman. And he would be on his Twitter and, you know, all his social media downing black women whenever he could. He was murdered by his white girlfriend. And black women recently, they took a stand and was like, you know, to your point, I'm not going to protest for you. I'm not going to, you know, you in life disrespected black women. So in death, I'm going to let you keep that opinion and respect that. And the only time black men started talking about his case was to say, why wouldn't you fight for him? That's messed up. Not to actually get justice for him, which I think to this day he still doesn't have, because we're the ones that push that effort and push through for that. So I'm seeing a lot, like you said, in various ways, the ways that they can pick and choose what communities they want to fit into to benefit themselves.
Right. That's a really good point. That's a really, really good point. I think sometimes they forget, or maybe they realize that they are men, but I think that they're not aware of their privilege as men because they fall back on the, well, I'm a black man. But there's still male privilege with that, especially in the black community, because they're favored in the black community. And I think we as black women are coming to a place and a space where we're finally putting our issues to the forefront, right? Because we've been socialized and conditioned to always think of everyone else but ourselves. And we don't have much to show for that. So now, when the men actually have to do some work, maybe they'll better themselves. But I like this shift where black women are focusing on ourselves and our girls, because we have a lot of power, especially when we mobilize. And I think we're moving in the right direction.
I do agree.
I
And I think that
agree.
that
I
is the
definitely agree
power
too.
of, yeah, that's the power of intersectionality, is the power in it that black women are realizing. And finding a way to maneuver through instead of around, and the way that some Black men utilize intersectionality to oppress their own people, and how we see that, because it makes me question to a point, you know what I mean? Like when we have these allies, quote unquote, that pander to people of color, they're going off of what the trend is. So when we see the media that calls themselves being on our side, uh, only, showing one side of the story, sometimes I'm like, is that them? Like, where does it start? Like, obviously the patriarchy started with the racism and the people that, we're dealing with now. But at what point is it not them just continuously pandering to what we present as important in the Black community? If they see that when they kill a Black woman, it's not important, so they give it less coverage because of that, and then they see when it's a Black man that there's more outrage and they cover it more because of that. It's almost like, to what degree are we creating this coverage based off of just what we seem to value in the Black community, which seems to be Black men?
I'm very curious, and I thank you for this powerful talk. This is not what you're talking about, but I'm very curious, and I would like to know your opinion. Why do you think there aren't Latinas making a panel like this and just speaking about such issues on stereo or wherever? Excuse me for the bias or no disrespect. I'm just curious, your observation.
I want to give all of us a chance to answer that with our opinions, because they may be different, but I'll go first. First of all, what's up, Bay, and what's up, Pete Ski? I've had a couple good conversations with you. I watched a couple of yours, so I know, the purpose of your question, and I feel like trying to use information from other communities to enlighten your own is always, beneficial and always encouraged, and I appreciate that about you. I personally feel like other cultures or other people of color aren't necessarily discussing these same issues, because I think they're probably a little bit further back in understanding that they even have these issues. So I don't know if anybody has heard of Amara La Negra, but she is a Dominican woman that is Afro Latina, but she is always in this position where she's incredibly melanated and very beautiful. So people are like, no, you're not Hispanic, you're not Latina, you're black, you're black. But then the Black community is like, oh, okay, you talk different. No, you're Hispanic, you're Latina. And she's been going very, very hard as of the last couple of years to bring the topic of colorism up to the Latin community, and she has gotten very little support. People have continuously kind of downplayed everything that she has tried to say about how this same kind of colorism and or racism plays out, because that's the part that we don't talk about. Like, I notice in some of these chat rooms, some other cultures, they're like, oh, well, that's not something that us as Latinos have to deal with. But it's something that they're just a little bit further back and even being able to address. Like, they're still having a hard time with Afro-Latino representation. And, these are things that I'm hearing from Afro-Latinos that are saying that we're still not seeing ourselves on TV. And that is something, at least in America, I feel like we have slightly gotten past. So if we're just comparing representation, we have started to create representation for ourselves here. So it's easier to see some of these things through the representation. I feel like the Latinas are and the Latins are such a wide, and also it's such a, you know, Black seems to be such an inclusive thing here in America. But I notice that Black people from the United Kingdom feel very differently about us. And some Black people from Africa feel very differently. And so it's not this collective idea, so I feel like it's the same thing for Latins. And I feel like there's so many different cultures and so many different countries that it's still something that as a whole, maybe, they may be struggling to come come clean, but really accept that it's a thing. But I think that we all know, especially with Latinas, that there is a different treatment between lighter skin Latins and darker skin Latins, a different treatment between lighter skin Asians and darker skin Asians, and we see that everywhere. I feel like some of these other cultures aren't talking about it because they still benefit from it in ways that Black people just cannot. Long story short, I'm sorry to rant.
No, you're good. You're not even ranting. You're speaking like nothing but facts, and I definitely agree with you because I'm from Southern California. It's like right there next to Mexico. So I spent a lot of time around Mexicans, and you know what? They have no idea. I'm gonna tell you right now, they have no idea that there's any type of colorism in their culture. Not a clue. That's literally why. I agree. They think everything's cool, so they just continue on about their day. You know, they get their money, they take care of their families. You know, they have some drama here and there, but all that stuff keeps them pretty preoccupied. They're too busy grinding, working their asses off to care about these things and to educate themselves or to even acknowledge that there's an issue with that. Um, I'm not saying that they don't like Black people. I have a lot of really good Mexican friends. I have a lot of good people that I consider family that are from that culture, but they don't think it's an issue at all. Even though you can see it plain as day if you're paying attention that there is a lot of colorism in their culture. So the lighter you are, the closer you are to being a Caucasus like tone, the easier things are going to be for you. That's how they see it in their culture, and they're very outright with that information. It's not something that they withheld at all. It's just the norm for them, and they don't see anything wrong with it. I partially want to blame Spain, but not everybody is from that part of that culture either. So, and they're even worse. They're worse than the Mexicans, honestly. Elle, were you gonna say something? I saw you.
No, I was wondering, before I do say another thing, I wanted to see if Joyce had any comments. I want to give you a chance to respond to.
Oh, I I don't really have an answer for you, Pete Ski, because I'm not too familiar with the Latino community. Um, I can agree with both Elle and Queen though, because they definitely seem to be coming from a place of more understanding than I do. Um, yeah, I just don't have enough knowledge on the culture, so I don't feel like I could really speak intelligently about why they aren't talking about issues. I mean, I could, I guess, put a hypothesis through and say the priorities may be different, right? And also, too, when it comes to certain groups of color, particularly those that are not intrinsically from the U.S., I notice there tends to be a communication style where it's like, I don't want to rock the boat. So maybe that has something to do with it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm sure that has a huge part in it, definitely. But I mean, like, think about it. Who won the Afro Latina the best Afro Latina artist of the year this year? Freaking J Balvin. J Balvin is not black, y'all. I don't know if y'all know this, but I mean, yeah, he's a very talented, artist. But the category was Afro Latino, meaning you had to have some type of
But
African.
he's Puerto Rican, huh?
Yeah,
So that
yeah,
was their okay. They were like, that was enough. That is
yeah,
enough.
yeah. But he even has said out loud before, he's like, I'm not black, y'all. But he got that award for the year, so I mean, no hate, dude, make your money, but I just couldn't believe they were like, oh yeah, that's good. So it just shows, if you were to look, if you Google him right now, you'll see like nothing about this man is melanated in any form. So well, it's just kind of a slap in the face to any Afro Latina or Latino people in the culture who are like, well, where is where's our representation? How do we know that we're really, prominent and out there and, exist, so we can find spaces for them too, where they're comfortable and see and feel seen and accepted. Everybody deserves that. So, I mean, I feel like everybody deserves that.
Right, especially if you, being an Afro Latina artist, had to deal with the discrimination of being Afro Latina, then definitely when the, category comes up, I would love to also be the person that received the award, if I had to deal with the discrimination for it. So I think that the colorism is something that we all see, and I think in other communities, like Joyce said, we see it and we're just like, I gotta let somebody from the Afro Latina community, chime in, because there's so many fights to be had all the time that you're just like, okay, well, I'll let somebody over there handle it. But I do think that we see it very prominently, and I think that it's important to discuss, just because part of that is used to enforce this racism and also the misogynoir against Black women, because there's this comparison, so they always, it's like I heard somebody say, I think this was on your podcast, she said, poor me, poor nigga me. Well, it seems like there's this concept of, the better nigga. And so if you can prove that you're not that type of Black person, if you're not that type of Hispanic, you're not the bad kind of Asian, then there seems to be this justification for racism in it. Well, it's not all the Asians, it's just the Asians that do, it's not all the Black people. And I think that the colorism in other communities, seeing how everything is put into a spectrum and a scale, of more superior and least superior, or inferior, I think that they use that a lot to keep that narrative going. And so the colorism in other communities, even though it's other communities, when we end up in the same places, those things get used against us. And to a second point, an article I sent to both Joyce and Chyna was about the fact, another point to Pete about them benefiting from it, is there was a time when they were, changing Mexico to America, and they were seeing all this slavery and stuff like that. And they were seeing the in the war how everybody was being treated, how the slaves were being treated, the Black people being treated, opposed to the white people. So they actually fought for the right to be seen as legally white. So I think that's another reason why the fight to end this structure is not necessarily in the forefront of their minds, because instead of, it's never been a situation, well, before, in that situation at least, it wasn't a let's fight the system, it's, well, if you can't beat them, join them. So it was a situation where the structure and the system that is in place now to benefit white people does in fact benefit certain Hispanics. And that is that same outlook, is, well, why would you want to stop it? Any of these people that have any kind of privilege, the idea of ending the privilege means you would have to try, and nobody's going to just opt in for that.
Right, definitely. They already work hard enough. They're not trying to add extra work on top of their work, especially since the way that they've been doing things so long has been quote unquote working out for them this whole time, because it has nothing to do with them.
I want to thank you all for giving me direction. I'm Puerto Rican, and my whole platform, everything is mental wellness, and it's really powerful.
I appreciate you being here. I have seen a few of, like I said, the talks that you've had, and I think that this subject across the board is pretty important. Um, and I think that even when China was talking about the identity between, some Puerto Ricans being like, yes, that makes me black, and some Puerto Ricans being like, no, that doesn't make me black. And then being in a situation where you may be a Puerto Rican that say you don't care either way, you're just for the rights of people, but you have the situation where you're caught in the middle. And I think that I understand that because I feel like to an extent that's where some of the black men in our community are. I just feel like the way that we go about addressing it, changing it, fixing it is it's a difficult motion because there are not as many people like you that are willing to learn. Like you guys, there's two male listeners, and just the other day I was on a talk with Joyce, and when it seemed like the topic might be problematic, they're there. They're there, they want to argue, but when it seems like the topic might lead to some kind of change, they're nowhere to be found. And so it's a collective movement that is missing the collective part. And that is sometimes some of the struggle. What do you guys think?
Oh God, I totally agree. I completely agree. It's so hard. I mean, I feel like it's part of this whole spiritual warfare that we're going through right now. I think it's part of half the battle is finding the people willing to make the change. You know what I mean? Yeah, people listen, but in this time, I do feel like we are lacking a lot of empathy, and everybody's so stuck on survival mode in this work, work, work. Got to keep a roof over my head. Got to pay my bills. There's no extra time to focus or pay attention to things that really need attention, and it's all part of the master plan. Honestly, I really do feel like it was built this way on purpose so that there would be no energy or extra time for anybody to be able to organize and at least get a gathering of people together to even to sit down and say, this something's got to change, you guys. This isn't working. This isn't this may be how people have done it in the past, but some people aren't aware and need to be made aware of that this system wasn't made for BIPOC people. This system was created for people that were not like us. And we need one that is. If this is supposed to be us living together, kumbaya and harmony, why are we not able to redo the Constitution? Why are we not able to talk about police brutality, misogyny? Misogyny, I know I'd like to call it that. My bad, yeah. I'm stupid. But yeah, I'm just saying that sometimes there are more important things, and we're adults now, you guys. Like, we gotta do what we gotta do. Our ancestors have been working on this for a hot minute, just trying to heal from what had happened. And I really wish that, people could come together and at least have a conversation calmly without, the disrespect. Just listen. Even if you feel like you can't say anything nice, like even just listen. Even that's better than, just ignorance. You know what I mean?
But ignorance is bliss. So we're going to have to find a way to make change and growth beneficial. We're going to have to find a way to market it because that seems like it's the world that we live in. Joyce, do you have any comments before I go to the next topic in this?
Yeah, I wanted to speak on the great point that you both made in just in how when we're really talking about change and we're really talking about solutions, those rooms tend to be empty, right? But if it's some drama or if it's I don't want to say crybaby victim session, but usually when you see the panels of 6 men and they're complaining and either blaming someone, it's either racism, white supremacy, or the black woman, it's one or the other, right? Those conversations are very unproductive. And I stopped going into those rooms for a reason. And I created my own platform. And they'll come to my platform with myself and my co-host. And when we ask them, okay, what would you do if you were in charge? It was quiet on the set. So what that tells me as a black woman, I mean, I already knew this, but what it tells me as a black woman is I don't believe that men should be leading. I don't believe that men should be making the executive decisions. That should go to women, specifically black women. I think, we're the only group of people that think about other people other than ourselves, even to our own detriment. And when you tend to give us something, we make sure everyone else is okay. But I can't say the same thing for the opposite side. So when you ask these same males who feel like they should be in control, okay, what are you going to do now that you're in control and you get radio silence? I just feel like that was the universe confirming that they are not supposed to be in control. And if they were, it would be a problem. It would be a serious problem. So I'll land my plane with that.
And I give you your roses because I say it out loud. And I don't know how this comes across, but I say the leaders in stereo, the ones who are speaking clear, giving direction, cleaning things up, African American women, black women. You see these panels, you see the men. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, she's great. Yeah, this and that. But it's women who are stepping up, and I admire, and I even get my moxie from. And I've said it, so salute to you three, and I really appreciate your direction. It is acknowledged, seriously.
I want to say peace and love to the goddesses. Roger to goddess Elle, Roger to Joyce and Queen. Buy up all the reserve. I'm not sure what you're saying, but definitely backing it. Want to give thanks for learning so much from you, Empress. Just was watching the clip on YouTube about intersectionality, which is the first word I've heard of that word. I was investigating it, and you're so right. When you're bringing topics that definitely going to result in change in our vibration, you always got some people to come and try to clickbait the show. So definitely do what you're doing, spread the light. You got a few brothers here with you, supporting you. And one thing I can say, ladies, whenever you come on, I've always leave the show learning something new, and I think that's most important. So I can help to make awareness of what's going on. I'm very interested presentation on YouTube. Definitely going to spread the words on that. But peace and light. Queen buy up all the conservative land. I'm like the way you're looking at changing the constitution and thinking what we can do with the government and the system. I like the way you're looking at it, and I think that's very beautiful. And definitely love your name. I think we need to definitely magnify that across. So peace and love to the mothers, doing a wonderful, wonderful job. I say every time I come to these shows, especially with Joyce, I always learn something. And I'm glad to see LA with you and another Empress. Peace and love.
I want to say thank you guys for your comments. And Chyna, you want to respond?
No, I just wanted to say thank you too. Like I really, oh my gosh, it's when I don't know. I must be talking to the wrong people. I need to stay with this crowd of people because I'd be running into the wrong crowds. I really do. They don't be hearing a word at all, and I that's literally all I'm just asking for is for someone to listen. That's all. So I appreciate you for being here and listening.
That is definitely appreciated. The camaraderie is definitely appreciated because these conversations are never meant to exclude men. They're only meant to educate them and hopefully come to a common ground. So the fact that you guys are here willing to do that is very much so appreciated. And to kind of go into this topic change, I think a lot of the times knowledge is power. And so some of these people that look like us make sure that there's never an exchange of knowledge, because even though, you know, they say that they want us to have this power, they have molded themselves to work and fit in a system that is not made for them. So if we change it back, it'll no longer fit them and their narrative that they created. So I think that in these spaces, we all have seen a lot of different people trying to keep the knowledge gone. But the way that I'd like to see it is that if one of us teaches just one other person something new, that person can go and teach one other person. And it's only one person, but then before you know it, it could be 100, it could be 1,000. And as long as we try to keep that positivity, you know, especially in spaces like this where it can get very negative, I get a little overwhelmed being like, oh yeah, I want to hear black people talk about black stuff. And you go in and it's like, why do women, and you go to the next podcast, because these bitches, and you'd be like, okay. And then she totally, and it's just like, oh my God. So to be amongst like-minded people is always appreciated. In the topic of the video, and if you guys haven't got a chance to watch it, please save it. You can watch it after the podcast or whatever. But one thing that she was talking about is the different oppressions or isms that we face and how these roads intersect. So one thing that we were talking about on Joyce's podcast yesterday is the fact that some black men that practice misogyny and misogynoir are compared to Karens. And I feel like intersectionality has a lot to do with that, because they both have one privilege and one oppression, and they have to live in a world where they pick and choose which ones they want to utilize. So just like I was saying earlier, the ability to be able to pick and choose. Not a lot of black women can do that, because you'll be like, oh, okay, I'm going to be black today. It's still an oppressed group. Oh, okay, I'm going to be a woman today. That's still an oppressed group. Both of them at the bottom of whatever this food chain is that they created. So when you get there, and you see these different interactions, sometimes things get lost in translation. Like my example, some white people, or the racist white people, feel like it's okay to do and say the certain things that they do because they've crossed paths with a black person that chose to be human or chose to be a man at that time and relate to them on that way. So now they took that and made it a race thing and turned it into a, I'm okay to feel like this about the race because somebody from that race feels like that about me. The other way that I feel like that relates, that I see a lot, is when you have Caucasian LGBTQ plus members that feel like they can't be racist because they're in the LGBTQ plus. So in that, I have to correct a lot of the LGBT plus people, and then about racism, and then I got to correct some of the black men in my community about homophobia. And so these paths are intersecting to where we get to utilize privilege at some points and be harmed by oppression at some points. And because we have no understanding of what that is, we have these some of these black men that say, well, I'm black, so I know oppression. I can't be misogynistic. Or you have some of these white women that are like, I know oppression. I'm a woman. What do you guys feel about that?
I agree. Yeah, it's that 1 foot in, 1 foot out mentality. It's pretty detrimental. Because when I walk into a room, I am all things. I'm not going to put my womanhood on the shelf to appease a man. I'm not going to do that. And I think it's disrespectful to even ask or suggest that I do that. When I walk into a room, I am a black woman. So I'm not going to walk into a room and say, oh, I'm just black, or oh, I'm just a woman. No, I embrace all of my identities. And I think that we all should.
Right. I think we all should. And the other point to that is, even though you're okay with it, you can't. You know what I mean? Like, there was a conversation we were having about gender identity, and it was like, do you identify with what makes you comfortable or with what people will force you to identify with? And not saying that's the case for you, Joyce, because I think we're all proud to be Black women up here. Hopefully, you know, that's I think that's why we can come into these spaces and have these conversations, because we're not hiding anything. We're open to it, and we love ourselves and we love each other. And so it can create these spaces in which we can do these things. But also in the other side of it, if you think about people like Amara La Negra, where she's like, oh yeah, I'm Latino. And they're like, no, you're not. Her identity is constantly being chosen for her. So even as a Black woman, if you wanted to be like, oh, I'm just a woman today, you would not be able to do that. Like, they would make sure you knew, but you're a Black woman. You know what I mean? You're a Black woman. And then they have these stereotypes and things that they incorporate into that they automatically place on you that you have to accept. You know what I mean? They're like, you know, you're a Black woman, but you have to understand. Like, even Paul Rhodes the other day, like, just the assumption that we all had short, nappy hair. Like, it was just like, where were you trying to get at? Because I still didn't hear you address the colorism in your avatar. So I think that everybody wants to be in a position where, like, even the Black men that I've encountered, some of them, the nice guys, they get to categorize themselves. Well, I'm not like other Black men. I'm not like other Black men. I'm not like other Black men. But if at any point you try to be like, oh, well, I'm not like other Black women, they'd be like, sure, sure, yes, you are. You know, it's like that constant, you have to be what they want to categorize you as.
I completely agree with you guys as well. Honestly, it's so people don't understand that they see me, the first thing they see is a Black woman. So yeah, of course, I'm gonna go to the Black Lives Matter protests. You know what I mean? I'm a Black woman. Of course, I'm want to take care of my Black brother and sister. Like, it doesn't matter. It is what it is. When I see a young boy that is passed because he got shot by a police officer, I see my little brother on that TV screen, or on that T-shirt. You know what I mean? Like, I see family. So it's not a matter of if I'm Black or not. It's a matter of I'm also Black. I'm also gay. I'm also in an interracial relationship. So it's like I have all these aspects about me, but because I have one aspect, I get completely invalidated because I'm just like being myself, you know what I mean? Like, how am I not Black because I'm gay? I get these vibes off of people when I talk to them, and if I'm not comfortable around you, or if I feel like you're not comfortable around me because of a specific aspect, I'm not gonna want to spend time with you. I'm not gonna want to enlighten you. I'm not gonna want to be around you, because if I can sit there and listen to you and your point of view, why can't anybody else do the same? You know what I mean? I feel that if I'm putting in the energy, it should also be given back. It's a give and take thing. It's not just give, give, give. Because if you give, 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 you're gonna run out of energy. You're not gonna get anything that you really need to get done. And next thing you know, like, nothing's done, and you're like, wait, I just wasted all my energy arguing about something that I have no control over. And you're like, oof, what just happened? You just wasted all this energy, and you could have put all that energy into just understanding and finding a solution. And it's really that easy. I know it sounds hard, but it's really easy too, if you really want us to just sit down and listen. It's it's not. I know it sounds hard for the egotistic person. I get a big head sometimes too, and I get in the moods too where I'm just like, I don't I don't want to hear that. I'm not gonna lie. I get in those moods. I'll be like, I'm not gonna hear that. Well, if you're not willing to listen, then be respectful about it. Be like, I'm not. really receiving the information that you're saying right now. Even that's better than disrespecting me because I'm gay on top of being black. I think that's the big issue here is the respect. I don't know about you ladies. I feel like once you does that happen to you ladies? If you say something, a dire situation about your life that's really important to you that you cannot overlook, and they're just like, looking at you sideways about it. How does that make you feel?
Um, I feel like that triggers me. Obviously, like I don't. I went out of my way to learn how to properly articulate myself, so you could not sit here and act stupid. So if I did all this work and you're sitting here acting like you don't understand me, then I have to put that up to a personal thing and leave it alone. Because one thing that I've realized in being like super nice and, letting people do whatever is these people aren't fucking dumb. They know what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing.
They
It's
do.
not stupid. Like part of the like okay, so when I was younger, always been pretty inquisitive and like wanted to learn stuff. And the first time that I realized, because we were friends for a while, but I guess I had just realized that she was Muslim, and I started asking her questions and was just like, so what's going on? What's the beef between, these two groups of people, and like what do you guys believe in, and this and that. And at the time I was Christian. I was probably more devout than my parents because they were just undedicated and I wanted to go to church and they didn't. But I was like, okay, I'm Christian. And there were parts that she was explaining to me that I could recognize went against what I was being taught and things like that. But the way that I felt for her in that moment, and I guess it comes down to the empathy too, is if I feel so strongly about how I feel, and when I pray and I feel that, and I feel like I know that something's out there or God is real because of my personal experiences, I have to respect that. That's probably exactly how you feel, and that is the empathy of it. But I think when you are constantly in a state of undermining other people, because it doesn't take much to have empathy, like it really doesn't matter. But I've seen a lot of people, like they'll be like, oh, I'm so sad because this and this happened. They'll be like, get over it. This happened to me. You don't see me crying. You're crying right now. You just complained over somebody else complain, so you could complain louder about how they shouldn't complain. It's like that's how these people work. And after I started seeing that, I
So
just tried to.
condescending. Oh my gosh, I hate that.
Right. It's really stupid, and I think that I noticed that, and I was just like, okay, there are certain people that I'm not going to deal with. And I think that is the power of intersectionality, is because it's not just a point of where our oppressions meet. It's a point of where different people with different oppressions get to utilize different privileges, and where we're seeing those things come into place. So like you said, you're talking to a person that you consider an ally, but they're not gay. So boom, that is where they feel like they have that privilege, because it's obviously white, male, straight. And these are the categories that we're all trying to get as close to as possible. And the closer to that category you are, then the more of privilege you'll receive. And so when you meet somebody that, oh shit, you're gay and I'm not, it's like, oh, boom, I got a little bit of privilege over you. And you start feeling the need to, you know, have some kind of authority over them, because that's really what these scales are for, right? I have authority over you. So I think that is the biggest way that they utilize it, is pretending that this is a safe space, just so they can sit there and tell you that your problems aren't real. So I'm going to go into the messages and then we'll get back to it.
I just want to say I love y'all.
Hello, Elle Green. Hey, Miss Joyce. Hey, Queen buying up. I'm sorry, I can't see the rest of your name. Chyna Burr.
Love you too,
Um,
Peachy. What's up? It's a read.
yeah, I think when it comes to intersectionality, I think we all need to realize that there is a chance that we all can have a privilege over someone else. And if we moved in that way, we would be better to each other. We would understand, you know, our places, and both can be true. You can be privileged and you can be marginalized. Yeah, it happens.
Yeah, definitely, Elle. There was someone on stereo earlier this week talking about how like the feminist movement, even with this abortion thing that's been going on, it just seems like, even the white women will be like, for themselves, and they'll be like, oh, I know what it feels like to be oppressed because I'm a woman, and I'm like, okay, but the woman experience in America and the black woman experience in America are totally different, and they don't see it that way. So I think that goes across the board. So as black women who interact with feminists, or as like black queer people who interact with just like other black folks in the community, it's hard to understand each other's struggles. So we really just have to listen to each other's stories and try to understand each other.
Absolutely. Just a short story on that. I was on a talk with Chyna, I don't remember how many days ago, and I went into the dispensary, and the store manager was there. She was a white lady, right? Um, I asked the person that was helping me something. She just chimed in and started being, trying to be definitive, almost like I was like questioning him, but I asked him like literally one question, and she was like, I know how this is gonna go. Let me just step in. So she like stepped in and she was being kind of rude, and I finished buying my stuff, and I wasn't gonna say anything. And I stopped at the door and I was like, nah. So I was like, hey, can I tell you something? You said you're the store manager, right? She said, yeah. I was like, right. So I feel like if I have a complaint, who else would I go to but to you? I feel like you were incredibly rude just now. And I get that there are people that lie about certain stuff. Or she was like, well, oh yeah, I didn't think that I was rude. It's just you don't know how many people lie about having their badges and stuff. And I was like, I get that people lie about their badges, but you don't get to treat everybody like they're lying without having proof first. And that was just my point, is that I felt like you were kind of rude. And this is my first time seeing you, but I'm a regular, so I feel like you should, just know that just because you didn't know me doesn't mean that I don't come here often. And it would probably prevent me from coming here again if you were rude. Something that white people get to say all the time, but customer service doesn't apply to you when you're black. So she just automatically is like, no, I wasn't being rude. Like, I'm literally shaking. Like, I'm so nervous right now. And I'm like standing like 12 feet away from her. Like, you hear my voice. I'm talking to her like this. I was just like, no, don't be nervous. Like, I'm just letting you know. And she tried to literally, the whole time I was telling her she was being rude, she tried to negate that by saying, there's no way I can be rude because I'm literally so scared of you right now. I was just like, bitch, I'll give you a reason to be scared. Like, I ain't said nothing. Like, I didn't do anything. Like, it was just this whole automatic. There was no point where it was woman to woman. It was never that. Mana y mana. I don't even know if that's Spanish, but there was never a point where she saw me and was like, oh, woman to woman, girl. It was black and white, instantaneous. So I do feel like that's something they like to bring out just so they can continue to steal black culture and get all that. Oh, I love your sass, girl. But when it actually comes down to it, they are at any point ready to utilize their privilege and race over you. And yes, everybody has privilege, but I want everybody to understand that in that privilege, there's levels. And we're not going to act like everything is like just equal across the boards. Not saying that that's what you were trying to do, Issa Reed, but I want to be very clear. I like to be open, but I don't want to be in murky water. I want everybody to be very clear that there are differences. There are privileges that surpass certain privileges. There are isms that surpass certain isms. There are things that surpass other things. So we all can have privilege. I mean, some people have been like, you could be like, you have pretty privilege. Like, I've had people just be nice to me just because I'm pretty. But that doesn't mean that if something ever came up, I wouldn't automatically be an N-word. So I did want to address that, because white women will pretend that there's camaraderie,
I'm
but it's
dead.
not.
It never fails. Every time. Every fucking time.
Not the colorism in the avatar. I'm glad somebody finally said something about that, because he is not that light skinned. He is not that light skinned. I'm talking about Paul Rhodes.
Yeah, I was like, he was like, it seems like you ladies I don't know. I didn't even have to go on his page. He was talking exactly how I figured it was gonna be. Like everything that he was saying, I was like, let me go see. Like it's so instilled and it's so deep, and that's why he never addressed that. But you could just hear him getting angrier and angrier in his voice notes. But he still never addressed it. Uh, some people are just so set on wanting to be something that they're not, that when they see Black women being proud to be who they are, it's just automatic envy.
It makes you feel like what's important to you is invalid to them, which means they don't belong in your circle, period. Like, don't waste your energy on that, because those are the kind of people who will use and abuse, and they only there for their own, whatever they can get out of the situation. Oh my gosh, that is so ridiculous. She's shaking and scared because you're Black and you had a complaint.
Right. I don't know. I'll take it further. I try to utilize the same things they put in place to make us mad. So before she can even try to say I was aggressive, because you guys already know that's where it was going, I left a bad review. And Google review says I'm pretty damn popular. So she's gonna she gonna hear about this shit. Like, and it puts you in a position to where automatically when she did that, I was like, okay, I have to be overly nice and I have to be overly accommodating, because if at any point escalates, there was one other person, like the bud tender that was helping me, he was there. But if it ever escalates or it becomes a point where, I don't know, like it was just very obvious that she was trying to pull the, like, you're making me so scared. I'm so, like, it was just the same things that they do. And especially in this day and age where people get shot for it, you know what I mean? Like, you can't say that's an accident. You can't say, oh, well, I was just legitimately, like, you're trying to pass me as aggressive because you were rude to me and I called you out on it. But the thing that gets it is I wasn't like, bitch, fuck you, this and this and that. I was like, as a customer, and I just kept reminding her, like, I know you don't think so, but you are here to, like, literally help me. Like, I am paying. So I want to remind you what your job description is. Because if you can't manage your emotions, I don't understand how you're managing this store. But that's neither here nor there.
There's an interview on YouTube. It's called White People Talking to White People About Racism. It's just an interesting observation. And it was also a tough observation because the anguish of talking about it, amongst the participants. It was done in a university, but it might be definitely something to just, check out.
Can you send me that link, Peachski? Do you mind sending me the link for that? Because this is the second time I've heard of that, so I'm gonna go ahead and make the third time me actually watching it and see what I gotta say, and maybe we'll do another talk on that. But sometimes I get, like, that's when you get in those modes of I don't want to hear it. So sometimes I miss out on information thinking that it's gonna be the same old thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and check it out. Sorry, Chyna, you had something to say?
Oh no, I was just saying that that was a great idea. I would love to see a chat or a talk about that. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, if you don't mind, go ahead and send that to us, Pete Ski. And then anybody that also wants to go ahead and check it out, if you want me to forward it to you, send it to you, please let me know, because knowledge is power. And I want to make sure that we all leave here with a little bit more power than we had when we started. So just go ahead and send any links, any other suggestions or links that you guys can think of. Please send them in the messages. Okay, back to the messages.
You might know who this person is because you read a lot. But there's a quote from a Black woman back in the day. She said, "They want our rhythm, but they don't want our grooves." And I feel like that's how it goes every time. It's so cool to be Black. Like, everybody want to be Black until it's time to be Black. It's like, it's so cool until shit get real.
I definitely need to look up who said that quote, because that is I mean, even for the time that they're in, I'm sure it was some kind of blues singer at the time, maybe Etta James or something like. I don't know. I think I have heard the quote before, but that is the exact example. How you see all these people, even people of color, adapting, Black culture. Even I had a heated discussion between me and other Black people from UK because they seriously, like, they were like, her first example, I was like, what do you know about Black people in America? She was like, well, I've seen 48 Hours. I was like, we don't even watch the first 48. That's so old. That's so 10 years ago.
I don't watch that. I'm good.
Right. I was like, that's back in the day. You talk about first 48. Ain't nobody snitching like that no more. Like, what are you talking about? That was her exact representation of what she thought Black culture was. And they were in the UK. And I was just like, wow. Wow. So even to see all these different people, even people that are supposed to be in our community, trying so hard to be white that they don't realize that the stuff they're taking from white people is our culture. That's us. They were sitting there talking to me about how, oh yeah, they're this and this and that, using slang words that they heard in America. They're like, yeah, people always want to get hyphy. I feel like you're not respecting my G. Talking about how I was just like, but you're using the lingo, you're using the language, you're benefiting from it right now as you're telling me we don't do anything positive. So it's just incredibly dense to see, some of the ways that people want to take the cool parts, and leave the rest, which is probably why they're so adamant about mixing babies. Not saying that mixed babies aren't cute. I think all children are adorable. That's what we should be using the all lives and all people stuff for, is all children. But now we got this mixed babies thing. To me, that's their racial representation of being able to take the good parts of Black culture that they want and mix it with whatever they think is good about their race. Because you see how they use that as an embodiment of the perfect combination. It's this weird psychological thing that I see happening a lot. It's just weird, but they definitely want our rhythm, but they do not want our blues, which is why, as long as we're dancing and shucking and jiving, everything's cool. And then the moment we're like, okay, so now that that's done, police brutality, they're like, shut up and dribble. Shut up and dribble.
The reality is, single mother households in African American communities have only significantly increased over the past 40 years. Divorce rates have also significantly decreased. Poverty rates significantly increased over the past 40 years. Crime rates significantly increased. The reason why? You tell me. Are we evolving? Doesn't seem like it.
I want to go ahead and correct that because I notice a lot of people like give stats without giving all of them. Single household rates, basically all these statistics that you named have increased amongst the board. So I'm curious why everybody always wants to say that as far as the Black community. Oh, Black women are aborting babies more, and Black women are and the Black people are the. I don't know why we're choosing to interpret these statistics the way that we are. But what I will say is that has increased amongst the board. That has increased across the board. As far as the evolution of the Black community, there is obviously evolution of the Black community. If you just look at, I guess, the things that we fought to be able to do, that not only we're doing, but dominating now. I think as far as the evolution that I'm speaking of in the topic is how we're going to move closer within ourselves. So comparing generalized statistics that increase amongst all Americans is not about the culture of Blackness in which we as a community are not coming together. And that's why part of the topic earlier was misogynoir, because part of why we're not being able to evolve as far as we could, because if we can get this far separated, still having gender divides, imagine how far we can get when we let go of that stuff. So that is the evolution in the community that I'm talking about. The evolution of moving from a patriarch like we were told to be to a matriarch, if that's what we need to be. That kind of evolution.
I agree. We really need to get together. If we want to see any real change, we need the numbers, if you want to be honest. Because one person can, at least start the flame, First, you got to start talking about it. That's literally the first step, isn't it? People need to start talking about it, having these open conversations. And hopefully, it'll stick. It'll stick to some people. It's obviously not going to stick to everybody, but that's part of the battle. That's part of doing the work.
I think that sometimes the work is first. I think some people just enter these conversations not in reference to him or anything, but like the conversations about growth. And I feel like you have to have an understanding of what that means personally before you can start talking about what that means as a collective. And so I think that gives me the perspective, or a better perspective, because I I dealt with it. A dark skinned black girl from, like I said, if you were to split how they show racism in America from North and South, go back to the Civil War, it's very North. So everything is undercover. So I didn't know why I didn't feel pretty. I didn't know why I felt so different. I didn't get it. And then you see these little ways that it's coming up. But in the process of not understanding, it does create this self-hate and this self-destructive pattern. And I think it leaves you in a place to want to see the negative. So even in these statistics, back to chilling, you have to ask yourself, like, why am I interpreting the statistics this way? Like, why am I looking for something that doesn't show what needs to be worked on, but shows the negative about what I want to see? Because like I said, even about those statistics, it's like, but that has increased across the board. So what about me read it in a way that was like, see, we're terrible as Black people. See, like, what made it worse when I saw that we were on that scale too? And I'm like, oh, like, I think it starts with trying to get to that intersectionality and the implicit bias that we first have in ourselves to be able to come open-minded, but like I said, still stern in these conversations, because when there's murky water, you might feel like you're making a difference and you look up and it's the same. So I like to be specific, but like you said, it starts with having the conversation, it starts with the openness. We do need the numbers, but we need to be looking at the numbers for what they are and not just putting the numbers in a way that further proves to you how terrible we are. Because why is that the proof? You know what I mean? Like, why is that something to even prove? Joyce, you've been a little quiet over there. You got anything to add?
Yeah, I just been listening and taking it all in. I really do appreciate this talk. I absolutely appreciate this talk. I really like what you just said about how self-hate kind of grows, right? Like where it begins, how it's birthed, and then how it's nurtured, and how we can become very negative and toxic and bitter and jaded. I like how you put that together.
Oh, I agree. I completely agree. I was struggling with all of these factors. When you're strictly around nothing but white people, it's like, uh, when you get the little boys coming up to you and pulling and tugging on your hair, no matter how much you say, don't touch my hair, like, leave me alone. Like, oh my gosh, who told you? Who taught you your manners? You know what I mean? Like, it's just stuff like that. It makes you feel a type of way about yourself over time, and it's something that I'm still fighting with, because I have to hear it from my wife all the time about how she tells me, like, multiple times a day, how beautiful I am, and I'm just like, it goes in one ear and out the other, because that damage is so real. I don't see myself attractive like that. Like I felt like I was pretty humble, you know what I mean? I don't think I'm ugly, but that stuff, it did settle, and it did, kind of morph into what it is today. It wasn't something that happened overnight. So it's just over time, having that negativity around you, it's going to change you regardless of, what people say, you know what I mean? Because when you're in that environment, they deny having any of these issues, right? They deny ever saying these backhanded things about you, because they were just singing along to your music. They were just fucking showing their whole ass to our culture, and using our hairstyles and doing all these things to our face, while also telling us that, you're really ugly, like nobody wants you, by showing this to you every day. That's basically what I went through for years, and it's gotten to this point. And I've been working through it. I'm getting better at it. It was way worse about 5 years ago, I promise you. I know I'm attractive. You can tell anybody. I'll tell them I'm smexy. Okay, I'll tell them. But before, I couldn't even say that. It felt weird. I couldn't even like say it out loud at first. It didn't sound right coming out of my mouth. Like, it was kind of cringy to me. You know what I mean? And then I realized, oh, that's because I was taught that. I was literally taught that, even though I knew it wasn't true. Why would I listen to them? You know what I mean? Did that happen?
Right.
Is that how you were talking about earlier, Elle?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. You're a minority in a lot of different ways too, especially because some of the black people that I did see, they were like first generation too. So then it was like, oh, okay. They were everybody, like my whole life, everybody would be like, oh, where are you from? Where are you from? Where are you from? So once the first generation people found out I was not from where they were from, it was a different aspect too. So it became this identity crisis very early on. And I think that we see a lot of that. Like, I changed the topic. I believe this is a William Lynch quote, but keep the body and take the mind. And I believe that that is definitely what they're still doing, because we've still got the physical features. They make sure never to make that a bad thing. We've still got the physical traits that they like about us and love to use us for, and have even started to emulate. But they have continued to try to, keep certain information out of the media, try to keep us from having the talks to get more knowledge and stuff like that. And then I was talking to Joyce yesterday. I was like, how powerful was your oppression if you don't even have to be in the room for it to work anymore? So then you can leave the room, and then you got other black people telling black people, you're ugly, you're too dark, you're too this. What about your fake hair? What about your this? And there's nobody white even around. You know what I mean? Like, you were talking about seeing people pull hair. I don't know if you said what race they were, but my earliest experience with that was seeing anytime a girl would wear like a ponytail or like anything to school, it was a bunch of black guys chasing her around, ripping off her wig and embarrassing her, and making a whole big deal, kicking it around and stuff. So very early, you get that sense of it. And it wasn't just the white people, it was the people around me. Like, I remember I always got comments about how dark skinned I was from other white people, or from white people, right? But then the other black people, they'd be like, there was this one dude, I remember we were in class. This is like one of those first moments. And I remember the story like it was nothing, because obviously it hurt. And then I see this nigga around, and he be trying to flirt with me like he don't remember he fucking hurt my fucking feelings in the 7th grade. I will always remember that shit. Anyways, back on topic. I had said something to him, and he was like, shut up, burnt bacon. And so obviously I'm hurt. And then the dude next to him was like, dude, you're darker than her. And so we're both sitting there hurt for no reason, because it never had to come to that. But even then, he thought that he was going to get one on me. And even in that moment, his own friend made it a point to either call him out because he was just being rude for no reason, or make him feel insecure for the same thing he was trying to make me feel insecure for. So it's just like this. Yeah, somebody was white in the room, but they weren't making sure this happened. It just happened. You know what I mean? It really speaks to how the systems that they create, the things that we see on TV, the fact that I got to go certain places to get my complexion of makeup. You know, they just don't sell it in certain parts of town. It's this mental thing that keeps you in a place where it's subconscious. It's like the biggest gaslight. And that's why I always compare it to an abusive relationship, is because it's never happening. They can't do it at the same rate that they used to do it. So I believe instead of saying nigga, they started saying low income. You know what I mean? And started just changing the way that they say these things so that it doesn't look so in the forefront. So then you're wondering why, because it doesn't make sense. You can't pinpoint it, but you just don't feel good about it.
They still say nigga, I'll tell you that much. They won't say it in your face, but they say it. They say it with their chest out in front of their families, and because they're teaching it to their kids. I do want y'all to know that I feel like a lot of people have forgotten what they have done to our ancestors, and I'm not understanding why. Can someone explain why? If anybody
No,
knows,
they
if anybody can give
definitely
me a
they,
tip.
they definitely still say that. What I'm talking about is the fact that the president used to, and even Trump had to say things a certain way. He was allowed to say whatever he wanted, but he still had to say it in a way that was blatantly obvious, blatantly disrespected, but it was still kind of covered. So what I'm saying is, before they used to be like, oh yeah, we're literally doing this because they're niggers. You can't do that anymore. Now you have to say, no, we're only doing this to the low class. No. We're only doing this to people in this area. No, it's only happening in Flint, Michigan. Because they can't literally be like how they used to say to each other, oh no, we're literally just doing this because they're black. That's what I mean.
Yeah. I wanted to comment and say on the colorism aspect, something my mom told me back when I was really young. She told me that the most colorist person in the black community is dark-skinned black men. And she said, you'll notice if you're ever in a crowd and there's black people, the first person to bring up color will most always be a dark-skinned black man. And I remember I thought about that when I was a little girl, and I was like, why? But then it clicked and it made sense. That self-hate in them in particular, oof, it manifests differently, I think, in dark-skinned black men than it does in dark-skinned black women. Their self-hate seems to be at epic turbo levels. They don't value their skin. They feel less than. They compare themselves to light-skinned men. They constantly talk about light-skinned men and bully them. It's really, really interesting on how I see that play out. But yeah, I just wanted to add in that part about colorism, because it seems like dark-skinned black women have no problem picking or choosing a dark-skinned black man, but there's little reciprocity there.
And a lot of them will say it's because they don't want dark skinned babies. Like they're literally trying to eliminate themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And have you all noticed, as it relates to colorism, I notice a lot of light woman, dark man couples on TV and even in black movies. I've noticed this ever since I was a little girl. And I was like, why is this narrative being pushed? Because looking at black media, you would think that dark skinned black women and brown skinned black women don't exist, when really the majority of black women are dark skinned.
I think that it is a representation of how colorism, and the closer you are to white, being a representation or a closeness to whiteness. So I don't think that it's because they give a shit about the light skin or the lighter tone woman. I think that she's supposed to represent his relation to whiteness. And so that makes it acceptable that he's there, because I feel like, because I have the same question, like if white men are running it, why would they want that to be the narrative? But I feel like that is just the misogyny aspect of it. Like if we are going to mix races, this is how we're going to do it. I don't know. I'm not sure why that narrative is, but what I do know is I recently watched a video from Godfrey, and he's supposed to be this super pro black person, but he says he'll be super pro black 1 minute and then say something really controversial the next. And he was walking by a poster in New York that had a black woman and a white man on it, and he was pissed. He was pissed. He was going on a whole rant about how it was stupid, and then he was like, why would you even push this? Like, we started it. We started this. If anything, it should be a black guy with a white woman. Where are the billboards with a black guy and a white woman? Like, that's why we're doing this. And I see why you guys are pushing this. This is not for us. It's because white men want to see this. White men want black women to start going to them. And I see why you guys think that that's okay, because technically we were the first ones to abandon you guys. But this is not right. I'm not for this. So it was never a complaint about seeing the black guy, white woman portrait. It was about seeing the black woman, white man, because part of that patriarchy is I need black women to desire me. There will never not be a need for black women to desire you. So as much as these same men will downplay black women, they'll do this, they'll do that, they'll do this, they'll still be in a room with black women like, well, why can't you just? Because they want us to be those people. As much as they'll be like, well, the white woman's better. Why are they telling you that? Because they just want you to act like that, but they really want to be with you because that makes the power. You know what I mean? Like I've noticed some of the black men that I've seen that date white women, they will be the utmost, some of them will try at least to prove a point. They'll try to prove a point and be that provider, be that person. But then when it's a black woman, I do want you to be that provider and be that person. I just want you to still acknowledge me as the bread maker, the breadwinner, you know, and it's this weird, I want you to act like this. And I think part of that power, like you were talking about the colorism, is being a man. So you feel like you should have all the privilege in the world, but also being a dark-skinned black man where you have none at all. So you're like, where do I feel that power? Where do I get that patriotic power from? And the only people you can get it from is black women. And I think that they will try in other communities to get that, but there's still this aspect of you are still black. So I think that it's this need to even the playing field and still be able to uphold that plantation patriarchy. I don't know. But let me know what you guys think of the messages. I'm going to play some more.
Reminds me of that video where the chick was chasing her around some store. She's like, get away from me, get away from me. The black woman's recording is the white woman's acting crazy, but the white woman is chasing her. And by the end of the video, the white woman she threw a temper tantrum, threw herself on the floor. Something happened with her purse. I was like, all because you wanted to get bucked and test this woman's gangster. She pulled out the phone. She's like, stop recording me, get away from me. And it took too long for security to get involved, but it sounds like that, where like they do something to you, as soon as you react, they be like, oh my God, why would you do that to me? First of all, you came over here giving me actions and didn't expect no equal reaction. Or keep that same energy, sis. No. Remember how you came to me first? Keep that same energy. Now you want to play the victim. That shit is so sick. I hate that.
White tears is definitely real. I've definitely seen multiple videos like that where they're just pretending they are being hurt. There was this one guy, he was filming the girl literally on the phone with the cops, pretending that he was attacking her. And that's what I'm saying. And that uproar started after what? After we started protesting about police brutality. So it's hilarious that
No, that's
Black
been
women,
happening since forever. That's like that's their defense mechanism.
that's been
Literally, they've
happening
been
since
doing it.
forever, but it's been an
It
uproar and
has.
yeah, it's been an
Just
uproar in it.
because there's
So
internet now and people are actually recording it instead of, the word of mouth, and
right,
people are like,
right.
oh,
So
that's just word of
we're
mouth.
seeing it more often. We're seeing it more
Yeah.
often. So none of this is ever to say, okay, so the one thing that I do want to say is none of these concepts that we're talking about are new. None of these, all of these racist tactics, they start way before, I believe, way before slavery. Because I feel like, I mean, once you become some of the richest civilizations in the world, you've got all the goods for trade. There has to be a sense of jealousy about that. So for me personally, I think these ideas and this way of trying to treat certain people has started way before slavery. So nothing that I'm saying is a new concept at all. Nothing that I'm saying is new. I'm never going to imply that. And now all of a sudden, no, what I'm saying is we are seeing it more often. Yes, because of social media, but to see that people are protesting about police brutality. And then more often, we're also seeing an uproar of white women fake calling the cops on black people. And then in the very next breath, black women are constantly being compared to the fragility and the femininity of white women is completely off the wall to me. So that is my connection. It's not that any of this is new. It's that we're complaining about police brutality. So what do? They call the police. They call the police more often. Now, yes, we're in a place where we can film it, but flip phones aren't new. You could film, like I've seen World Star videos from early 2000s, like flip phones and recording is also not a new concept. What we're seeing is, oh, you're being more blatant about it. You're being blatant about it. Let me put this on camera. And even though that's the case, one Karen gets stopped. They're still going. It's the blatant disrespect. And then on the flip side of that, for there to constantly be this comparison of black women to white women, I think that that's hilarious. And that's another place where this intersectionality comes into play because whenever a white woman does something, it's all women. Whenever a black woman does something that they don't like, it's black women. Have you noticed that? So that is my connection. None of these ideas, concepts, connections, none of these things are new. I think it started way before we even got to the country. But I do think that the whole series of events is completely hilarious and very blatant in the ideas of how far the instilled the racism is because we're literally being killed. They're trying to get us killed and we're comparing our people to them being like be more like that. That's hilarious to me.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but this new generation, I don't know if y'all noticed, but they ain't like us. They different. I'm not gonna lie. I'm raising my little girl to, don't trust shady people. Like they don't they ooh they do not like being around large groups of the unmelanated people. Like they tell me they're uncomfortable and they want to go home. So I mean, I'm not gonna make them. They already know. They've seen it with their own two eyes. So and they're what? They're young. They're 13, 14. They're pretty young. If they can see with their own two eyes, they already told me, Mama, I ain't taking that shit. And I'm like, look, you I'm gonna need you to do better than me, okay? I be telling them I need y'all to do better than me, okay? I'm trying to do better than my parents, but and I'm trying to make sure that we keep a roof over our head and food and all this stuff. So your job is to do better than me, like I am trying to do better than my parents. That's our agreement. So I'm just saying this next generation isn't gonna play that shit. They're not. They're not with it at all. So
Both kids are
I don't know about you guys, but they're little they're definitely special, and I'm with the energy. I'm supporting them. I'm like cheering them on, like, hey, do whatever you got to do because I'm trying to set you guys up to do the best you can. I really am. And I really do feel like that our ancestors tried to do the same because the situation is, they try to make it seem like a damn near impossible situation because of the way they have the system set up. If we can derail that even a little bit to make our kids and our kids' life easier than the way that we've had it, I'm betting all my energy, all my money, all my me into that. I hope y'all are doing the same. I really do.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Lied about the poverty rates, thank God. Excuse me for misspeaking.
I feel like what made it worse is the fact that our men want to be called men, but they're very disrespectful to women, especially if a woman turns them down. They get very disrespectful. And I question if some of those men even respect their own mothers, because I teach my boys to be respectful of women, whether they
She
say
said
yes
it.
or no, whether they like you or don't like you. But it's a nation of, if you don't do what I want, we bash you and we kick you. We have to come
Yeah.
together as men and women of color, and not just in front of the population for the moment. It has to be a joint effort to get that change. And I feel like that's where our disconnect is. Most of our culture, most of our society is keeping each other down. Like, I don't agree with people who sell drugs to their own people, and you're destroying your own. And people don't seem to understand that. Oh, they just trying to make money. But to me, it's not that.
Right. I definitely agree. I feel like that is the culture of it. When you see more people bashing Sierra for leaving Future than Future for continuously making music about pushing drugs and all this different stuff, even everybody will complain about moms need to pick better men and making broken homes. And then you have Nick Cannon out here on purpose making broken homes 3 times a year, and there's no outrage. So it's definitely selective outrage. And I think that it relates to everybody, not everybody, but some of the people in our community trying to be a better nigga than that nigga. So it's like, I'm not like that nigga. Especially even some men in dating, like I noticed the nerdy guys will assume that they're smart and assume that they're better because they're not in jail. But they need to fucking be. That's the part that nobody talks about, is if we actually told the truth about what some of these nice guys have done, they would be arrested on the spot. So I don't think that
Yeah. Oh, yo,
right.
you ain't lied. You ain't fucking lied at all, though. Oh my
They'd be like, you
gosh.
said what? Come with me. Like, it
Like,
would be no
what?
question.
Did he just say he'd eat me out for a Happy Meal? Like, wait a minute. That's just disrespectful. I'm gonna need y'all to
You need to
chill.
work on
Chill
yourself.
the fuck out, bro.
You need to spend a
The
night in jail and just work
disrespect.
on yourself.
I don't deserve fucking something better than a fucking McDonald's meal. Damn, y'all. That's wild. The
Right. And
audacity.
even with like, some of the anime guys too, like I've noticed I'll try to show them black animes by black creators with black characters, and they won't even give it a chance. They don't, like, it's almost like they don't want to see themselves. The self-hate is so, like, they can't see that, they want to take on the powers of all the Kakashis and the Narutos. But when I be like, well, look at this guy and look at this guy and look at this guy, it's like, no, he's not as dope though. No, I know he's not as powerful. And you can see how they see themselves. It's pretty
Mm,
telling.
mm, mm-mm.
Me. I'm doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have not.
I'm
That
trying
I
to do
that's
it.
I don't. That's so sad. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
you're saying was what you're saying is completely right though. I agree
right.
completely.
I think that they don't understand how that correlates to the self-hate. So one thing I want to say, we'll probably end up ending this talk a little bit soon. So the listeners, if you got any last thoughts, if you got any questions, comments, concerns, please send them all now. I'll go ahead and give like a moment of silence so you don't miss anything. Please click on the link if you haven't. Save it. Please make sure to watch it.
Mm. Not really. Oh man, I don't know if you were there. There was a talk the other day. They were talking about people fighting for homosexual rights, and then then they started talking about black rights, and then they kind of turned it into a patriarchy talk. Like, is it still relevant? And they just combined it all, and I don't like that. I don't like talking about multiple things at once because it kind of makes it sound like one thing's more important than the other when they all equally need to be addressed. You know what I mean? Um, because it's happened for a lot of the movements that have happened in the past where people are starting to piggyback and get the momentum of other movements, and it takes away from the whole meaning of the original point, basically minimizing any type of change really for that. And I'm completely against that. I want us to be able to focus on one thing at a time, even though I'm very aware that I have ADD. I do this all the time. I cannot get away from myself. I get on my own nerve because I be like hopping from subject to subject. But I do believe that if we do work together at this, there's hope for change. I do believe that.
I do agree. I think that there's always hope. I think that one thing that I've kind of accepted that makes it easier to have that hope, and I think that's also where some of the people fall short as far as like wanting to do something powerful in this lifetime, is that you may not see the results. You may not get to be here, when the work that you put in during this lifetime uh, turns into something prosperous. But that doesn't mean it's not worth doing. And just like you were saying, China, there are kids and people that are going to be growing up in this world that we're molding while we're living in it. And if we can try to do something to make it a little bit easier for them, then I think that we should be doing that thing. And also in relation to that, I wanted to say, because I hear some people saying this like you're like these new generation kids aren't us, but I hear people say it like the opposite, like they'll be like, I'm not my ancestors, I'm not my ancestors. I want to reiterate putting respect on our ancestors' names, because we would not be here doing what we're doing right now if they were as meek and mild and weak as a lot of our own people try to make them out to be. It's completely disrespectful. It's completely disrespectful. It's completely dense, and it's not a valid representation of how powerful we truly are. Because if you think of all these different systems that they have into place, to where we are still creating terms to be able to put it in a category so that we can fight it, so we can name the demon we're casting out, so to speak. So I think that this is an evolving thing, and I think that respect for all the generations that are doing it and have to do it, because we have to, um, should be there. Because I think every method, like I've seen people, from the Malcolm X method to the MLK method, there was importance in both of those methods. And I don't negate one or the other. And I notice a lot of our community, instead of being like, I'm not going to be the Bush, they'll be like, I'm not finna be MLK. I'm not, like these people are influential to us even being able to have these talks right now. So I like to make sure that we are respecting ourselves to the utmost at any period that we may see ourselves in. And that these conversations that we're having and the talks that we're having can benefit the next generation, but we may not be here to see it. So just because you think no one is watching doesn't mean no one is watching. I think that's very important. So just on the topic of intersectionality, like I said, oh, what were you gonna say?
Oh no, I was just gonna agree with you. 100%. I think that, oh man, our ancestors, whew, they're so hot at the coonery. I feel man, I'm just hearing some of the stuff people's opinions on here, and I'm just like, man, I just be wondering what their ancestors would be saying to them right now. I'm just like, that's a little playing with your ancestors is a little sketchy. I'm just saying. That's all that's scary.
I think it's because we were taught to see them as slaves. I think that's why we're taught to see our ancestors as slaves. But what we are is scholars and doctors, and we've heard that quote, but none of us, a lot of us choose not to internalize that. And then the people that do, you see, receive a lot of hate from the people that have not internalized that. So I would just say, keep correcting. I don't know, but I like to let people know that I couldn't be here today speaking the way that I am, fighting the way that I am, being the way that I am, if I didn't have a strong lineage of people that overcame, that gave me, what I needed in my blood, my DNA to be able to overcome. So I don't know where that comes from. And like I said, like I saw this video on TikTok. It was a girl doing one of these little TikToks dancing trends. And she was doing it in one of the parts. It's like you're singing a song, dancing, and it's like one of the parts says nigga. And she like bleeped herself out and then had to stop and be like, oh shit, I'm black. And that was like the whole video, and it was hilarious. And I was like, it's funny because some of the younger kids, because everything's being a trend now, sometimes they forget that the white person they watched do that trend that they're now copying got it from somebody black. She was copying the girl so much to a T, she bleeped herself out for a word she can say and obviously says on a regular basis. So it's just a common occurrence where I'm seeing that it's not that I don't think they're meaning to disrespect their ancestors. I think they just don't know them. They don't know them. And I don't think that we make an effort to know them because of what we're taught. They're saying, well, they were just slaves. They were just this, they were just that. And for you to even sit here and be like, I'm not my ancestors, I'll beat your ass. Like they didn't do that. You're just ill informed. You are learning your history from your little friends that may not even know the history, or you're just choosing not to learn it. And I think that part of that comes from teaching the kids the history in the households. Because sometimes we'll be like, oh, we'll let them make that decision, get there, and not here now. I realized very early that I was black. I realized very early that I was bi. Just because I didn't know the words doesn't mean I didn't realize these things. So it's like I think it's important for us to just keep instilling that in our children and then the children of our community, which are these grown ass people that still don't get it. And it's somewhat our point to say something, our part to say something, but not to sit here and argue with people who just aren't going to get it. Because when our lifetime is over, so will theirs. So the people we're really trying to get to are the people that are going to be here past us to carry this on.
Peace and blessings to the panel. Keep the body, take the mind. Black community, speak up. Well, there's no such thing as a black community because a black community have one mind, and as you see, we don't have one mind. Everybody think differently, so how can it be a black community? Let me know. Holla.
I want to give everybody a little bit of a background. I'm a Virgo. I'm on the Leo cusp. sometimes I have an attitude. So I'm just going to be honest and say, Storm Ready, I'm not sure where you were getting at. I don't know whether to honestly answer that question or if you were trying to be funny.
It
So
sounds
I'm
like a
going to try
trap.
to, right.
Can you
I feel like,
elaborate, sir?
yeah.
That
And
sounds like a
before you
trap.
do, hold on. Before you do elaborate, I want you to understand what I explained to Chillin, because somebody else came and was like, "Oh, well, all these statistics about how Black people are doing bad. So are we progressing?" Because it was like a earlier topic. So I want you to know that this is about knowledge being power and how us as a community, as a whole, are not always fighting for that knowledge because some of us in the community benefit from the ignorance, right? So the quote, I believe, is from William Lynch, because the idea was about keeping the body strong so the slaves could do the work that you needed them to do, but taking the mind so they never realized that they outnumbered you, right? So, in response to your comment, I don't think that relates necessarily to that topic because no community has one mind. Everybody thinks different. So, I feel like you were trying to be like, did you think about that? But did you think about it before you sent it? Because we're not talking about individuality. A community could be literally everybody that lives around me right now. We're going through a common experience. We don't have to have a common perspective to be sharing that experience. So let's make sure that we understand that.
Well, I've been told on these panels, hey, let me give y'all, what is the definition of the black community? Give me that, and then we could talk. I ain't trying to be funny, but I've been told that a black community is trying to have one foundation and this and that. If we don't think all alike, then it's a true community. So tell me, what is your definition of community?
Okay, so I wanted to confirm, but just like I said, the definition of community is a group of people living in the number two, a feeling of fellowship with others as a result of sharing common attitudes, interests, and goals. So the common interest would be us being Black. It wouldn't be our perspective. To answer your question. So again, it feels like, and I feel like I can confirm from your second message that you didn't really come in here to learn anything. You came to argue, but didn't necessarily know what to argue about. So I'm just going to let you know this is not the space for that. But if you want to learn, I can definitely help you with that.
I wanted to say something about Black women. I think it's in our bone marrow and it's just in our DNA, right? To just win. So when it comes to making a way out of no way, and it just seems like we just naturally rise to the occasion. I'm very proud of us. There's no obstacle that we can't maneuver and master. And I'm in awe of our resilience in spite of everything that we go through. And I'm just very, very happy and proud to be a Black woman.
You know, that is something also Storm Ready, assuming you're Black. If you want to send a comment about how proud you are to be Black, you can also do that. That is great. If you want to keep it positive, we can talk about how proud we are to be Black. But this is it's not going to be an arguing space because I have a temper. So I am also not the one. What I will say is, like I said, the Black community is everybody sharing the identity of being Black. And because we are an oppressed people, it is extremely important for us to have some kind of common ground on how to not be hunted and oppressed, but then stolen from and copied. I think that that is very important. And how it started, if anybody, Storm Ready included, took the time to actually click on the link, it's talking about intersectionality and how important it is to see where the paths of white man and black man cross, or white woman and black woman, or white gay male to black woman cross, and how these different privileges and oppressions keep us from being a collective path, just sharing the identity of being black.
No, I've been told that. Let me give you an example. The LGBT community, right? They a community, right? Why? They have same likes, same passions, and certain things like that. Do you hear the people on stereo? Black men and black women hate each other. So how can we be a community? Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you listen to these talks that we have? I'm just asking. We can't agree on anything. And it's a terrible, we kill each other at an outrageous pace. So that's what I'm trying to get at. You talking about community people. I live around all type of people. White people, Asians, I live around Indians. So are you just talking about the hood? Because everybody don't live around just black people, or I don't understand. I'm listening though.
So I want to go ahead and reiterate that you are a black man, correct? I want you to understand that you're stronger than that, and as a black man, I know I know nothing about being a black man, but I understand that they should be able to take out can't from their vocabulary, because you guys are actually capable of literally anything. We are all capable of doing anything we put our minds to. So I don't like it when people say that they can't do something. If you want to say that you don't want to, I'll accept that. That makes more sense. That sounds like you're being real with me. But if you say, "Oh, we can't just agree on anything," that's not true. You guys just need to stop being big-headed and look at the facts and look at, hey, I think we need to focus on us being killed every day instead of arguing about, oh, you won't give me the pussy. Why are you so picky?
Why are you gay?
Why are you gay, right?
How dare you be
Or
gay?
why are you like this? Why are you nitpicking when they're killing us? What's more important, you guys?
Oh, we gotta go.
That's crazy. That doesn't even make sense. Why they don't compare? They're killing us. You can come to agree that they're killing us. That's not impossible. That's not I find that hard to believe that it's impossible when we're capable of so many things.
I also want to use this as an example to everybody else actually trying to learn something. This is an example of willfully dense. Remember, we were talking about people who know exactly what the hell they're doing? I feel like this is an example of that because I've already explained a couple times. And maybe you missed it because you were recording your message, so I'm going to let you know again. Community is a group of people living in the same place or having a particular characteristic in common, a feeling of fellowship with others as a result of sharing common attitudes, interests, and goals. So that what I don't get about stereo, maybe you can send me a message on this, is why people argue opinions when there are facts in place. That's why I call it willfully dense. That's why I call it willfully dense, because you could easily look this up and we can actually have a conversation to progress the Black community, but instead you want to talk about tit for tat, bits and bits, without actually, I just told you what the definition was. Why are you still arguing? I told you who I think I am. I told you what it was. I told you what it was. So I don't understand why there is this disconnect. Well, we don't all think the same. Nobody in the world thinks the same. But we're all humans. That would make us a community of humans, a human race. Please stop. Please stop. Okay. I feel like there is a great opportunity specifically for people like you to learn something. Be open to it. And maybe don't send a couple more messages till you can get on the topic, because we're actually not talking about the definition of community. That is a distraction from the progression of the community we're talking about. So are you here to better the conversation or distract from it?
Storm Ready, for the record, the LGBT community don't even like each other. We can go into each letter and talk about how we don't like each other, how the B's don't like the T's and how the G's don't like the L's and the L's don't like the T's. We can talk about that. But we ain't here for that. We here for intersectionality. She just said that, bro. Is you listening? You know, communication is key to making progress. And like a lot of relationships, even like networking relationships, you ain't listening. You ain't communicating. You just talking at folk. That's not helping us get nowhere here.
And let me just say this, Ms. Green. I have never been hunted down since I grew up in D.C. I've never been hunted down by white people. I never experienced this whole big-time racism. Now, you could say, systematically, you could say that because I went to a bad school and didn't go to the good school in Northwest. But I've never, I don't understand. Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. Is that is that what we talk about? Well, I think everybody proud that they be black, but that don't make us no community, do it? Or you let me know, Holly.
It does. I said that. You're trying to bring the mean out of me. Why are you trying to do this to me? I got a reputation on here. People think I'm nice. Nigga, I just said that's what it is.
Right.
Oh, you know what? We can't agree on something. That we black. That's about it. That's as far as it goes.
That's litter. Oh, I can't. Oh, where's my inhaler? Where's my inhaler? Yes, that's the common thing.
I'm watching
yes.
I'm watching the hamster, running on the wheel right now. He's trying really hard. I'm so amused.
This the big
I really
one.
am.
I'm about to go.
I appreciate you, bro. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
I wanted to say something. I think that, and I'm not trying to be funny when I say this, but Storm Ready, I don't know if you're doing this, maybe you are, but I think that our men get off on triggering us and getting us riled up. And there's money to be made off of poking and prodding and being mean to black women. And it's not funny. It's not.
That better not be you, Storm Ready, sending all those damn reacts. I can't even tell. But I think that's obviously what they want. When they see a group of intelligent women or people, they try to get you to a point of no return. Little does he know, screaming is a personality trait that I actively take on. So we could go toe to toe. But one thing I will say, mentally, if you want to plan a talk, Storm Ready, we could do that, but it's not going to end well. I just know for a fact there is no real conversation to be had. And you know what? Here's another thing. I was going to say this. I was going to be like, where you from, homie? You better not send no damn messages. And then you hella did. So I'm going to play it, and that's it from you, because I saw you in another talk, and it just better not happen no more. Joyce is nice. I'm not, okay?
And this is a problem. Just because we black, that's one thing we have in common.
But come on, Joyce. He's being mean to black women. He's not. Like, see, that's kind of crazy to me. Like sometimes you go off. He's not being mean or triggering, or I don't even think he's trolling. I think that he has a different opinion. He's been around different races, and he's looking at how the black community is structured and how they kill each other, and maybe some things he doesn't see it the way you see it, but like for Green to be screaming and going crazy, I think that's a little bit unnecessary.
You want to know what's unnecessary is you coming into a talk assuming you even know what he was talking about. Now, at not one point did he ever say the black community is killing each other. You just literally put words in his mouth so you can come here and argue with my friend, and you better leave Joyce alone. I'm telling you that now. I mean it with everything in my heart. Leave my friend alone, okay? You just came on here to argue with her because at no point did Storm Ready ever say black people were killing each other. If you feel like that, you should start a talk and talk about the shit. But that is not what we are talking about. Where you from? Homie. Oh yeah, you said your name was Homie. I'm gonna call you Homie. So Homie, I need you to know the talk and the stuff that you got away with yesterday on Joyce's talk is not gonna happen on this one. So I need you to be on topic. The topic is how they take our minds. Knowledge is power. You are a perfect example of this because you came in, you didn't ask any questions, you didn't know anything that was going on. You came in, heard Joyce talk, and then had a response. What? What? So one thing that we're not going to do is sit here and talk about what's wrong in the black community while simultaneously being what's wrong in the black community. Okay, so we're talking about the progression of the black community, intersectionality. Where you from, homie? Why don't you go ahead and take some time to watch the video that's linked at the top so you can know what we are speaking about, and then you can have a response that matches.
I also want to point out that just because somebody says that they haven't been hunted down, that one person, doesn't mean other people haven't. I'm gonna need y'all to understand there's a whole fucking world out there. There are other states other than yours. There's other countries out there other than yours, and other experiences other than yours. So please, please stop it. Stop being so ignorant, please.
I believe they've been making money off of poking and prodding us since Sarah Bartman. Y'all remember Sarah Bartman? Or maybe even Henrietta Lacks, if you want to be more recent. Sarah Bartman, Henrietta Lacks, y'all still making profit off these things. And for those of you who don't know, you should know. You should learn something.
Definitely. That was another talk that we had because they didn't want to believe that they were experimenting on black people and that they were still benefiting from some of these ideas that they created to experiment on us to this day. One of those being that black women can take more pain, so it being not as much of a necessity to give them pain pills or prescribe certain things, mental health not being taken seriously with people of color or in the black community. So it is definitely a huge issue that people are talking about. And just to be back on my bullshit. Where are you from, homie? Since you can't follow directions, I'm going to do it for you. I'm not playing any of these damn messages. So just know that. I told you I'm not the one. You want to see that for yourself. Play Storm Ready before I play you. Just know that.
And see, there it is, Joyce, the black man. So let me just, okay, let's put it like this. Let the black women have a community. Because once again, Joyce goes back to the black man is garbage. So, hey, once.
Okay, so you clearly didn't get this definition. Black women do have a community. Because oh, Jesus, I'm not going to yell. I'm not going to yell. Okay, black women do have a community because we are a group of people that share an identity and share common ground, even if it's just off the basis of being black or a woman. And as much as you try to undermine English, that's what that word means. If you would like to speak a different language and then we can argue about that, that would be great. But I gave you the definition. I'm not going to sit here and keep doing this with you. Black women are a community.
I feel like he has a different definition altogether for community. Like, is it just are you talking about like neighbors that check up on each other, give each other cash rolls, the nasty ones with the raisins? I'm not sure what you're you're seeing here or what
I
you're
don't think it.
expecting.
I think that people trying to change the definition of words to match whatever argument they have at the time is stupid, and that's not going to fly. I don't care what your definition is, Storm Ready. Send a react to let me know you hear me. I don't give a damn, okay? The actual definition of the language that we are speaking right now to describe what we are going through, that is not the definition. You have managed to take this whole point and make it about your definition of community. But why don't you go ahead and send a message about what you've done for whatever community you identify with? I'll wait.
Bro, Queen trying to chill. This man talking to you off an app on his smartphone, and he act like he can't go look up the definition of the word. He's willfully dense, just like Elle Green said. I don't know what I keep going back and forth with.
That is exactly it. We were just talking about this exact group of people. They know what they are doing. They know what they're doing. So
Yeah, I'm not.
instead of
Yeah,
letting you
no.
further do it, I'm going to get back on topic. So for those of you that weren't here, for those of you joining, for those of you being willfully dense, all the same, this conversation is about the intersectionality of oppressions in America and where those intersectionalities of oppression turn into intersectionalities of privilege. So the topic of Black men and Black women is very relevant. So what I'm going to go ahead and say again is, any of you guys here to wait for, Joyce literally says something once every 30 minutes. And so the fact that you guys always seem to be here for that and have something to say, cut it out. You're done. Why don't you start a business? Go do something for the community, because this is what we're doing for the community. And you're sitting here trying to downplay it. I know for a fact, Storm Ready, you didn't watch the video. So part of that in the video was talking about the same police brutality that you're saying is non-existent because you didn't go through it. Because everybody's Black experience is based off of Storm Ready. I mean, well, shit, wouldn't that make us a community? We're the Storm Ready community. Because everything that you've gone through, we've gone through. There's a majority of the same community you're talking about saying that this is prevalent, and you're saying, no, it's not, because I haven't. So I guess that's where the conversation ends for you. You can go. But for the rest of us, this is very prominent because, like the video states, there is a number of Black women that have been involved in police brutality, been killed by police wrongfully, unarmed, that don't even get reported. And a majority of the people in our community know nothing about them. Just like we were talking about the LGBTQ plus community. There have been several situations where I have had to call somebody out because they were white and gay and felt like they could just speak on and do whatever. And that is not the case. So we're seeing where these oppressions cross paths and we can use them to help each other as allies. And we're seeing where these intersections cross paths, where we have Black men like you that like to come into spaces with other Black women and try to dominate, since you can't dominate spaces with other men. We see that in situations like with men like you that can't even amount intelligently to the conversations that we're having. You can't even compete, but want to come in and try to derail the conversation. And if you're unsuccessful, then you try to get the person to go off on you. That's when we have those intersections. And even the intersection that Storm Ready is talking about is that we are in a community, but don't all hold the same values. That is okay. But when we're all in the same community and not all of us value the community and everybody in it, that is where we find our problem. So a lot of us are saying, we go on these apps and we see Black men and Black women, they're going after each other, but nobody wants to talk about why, because you might have to point the finger at yourself. Just like if it was an app where we were seeing white people and Black people going against each other, a lot of people's first thoughts would be like, well, you know how white people do. But then when it's Black men and Black women and you cancel out the Black and it's a man and a woman, that's okay. The privilege telling the oppressed how they should feel what they should do, how they need to be better, and how they need to be more into the system of being oppressed to better the community. But we've been doing that. And then people like Chillin like to come up and be like, well, all these different statistics have increased. But all these positive statistics have increased too, but we don't talk about that part. That how moving out of a patriarchy has moved us closer to success and all these different things that we're accomplishing. But we don't want to talk about that because that might be admitting that a man leading the household 24/7 might not be the best way. We don't want to talk about how a lot of white gay males or white LGBTQ plus males emulate Black women while simultaneously using their privilege and their white privilege to undermine other people. Who's to say some of these Karens aren't gay? Who's to
I
say
don't
they're
think they're
not
ready
gay?
for that talk. I don't think they're ready.
Right. Who's to say some of these people out here, like the prime example? We had to talk about R. Kelly the other day. People were like, well, what about the white guys? What does it matter? R. Kelly hurt Black women. And you're claiming to be for the Black community. And there are people in your community that aren't helping. They're hurting each other. But you're mad because he's Black. That is where that intersectionality comes into play. And instead of coming into a room trying to argue with people, if you can see that this is important, because that's where these disconnects come from. We are in the same community. So regardless of different perspectives on trivial things, things that you would have to literally live my life to have different opinions on, this is a collective experience. You trying to make your experience the majority is a prime example of why we can't get anywhere. You are the minority of people of color. You are the minority of Black people. You just put yourself in the center of everything. That is the power of intersectionality. That we could all have a common ground of Black people shouldn't be oppressed, but not be able to get there because, well, I didn't mean all Black people. I just meant the Black men. One of the first things that we were fighting for was interracial marriage. Frederick Douglass himself, when he was talking about women's suffrage, was like, well, I don't think Black women need the opportunity to vote. White women have somebody to facilitate for them. White men vote on behalf of the women. Black women need somebody to vote on behalf of them. This is very deeply rooted that we will pick and choose what parts of the community we want to identify with to be able to benefit. Send a comment on that. Any other comments, Joyce? I had to come out and protect you real quick, but you got any comments?
Thank you for your protection. I appreciate you, Elle. You laid it down very nicely. Yes.
Any thoughts for you, Chyna?
Oh my God, no. You got it. You got it, bro. I'm over here just cackling like, yeah. Oh my God, they're not ready. Elle, they're not ready for these discussions. And I wish they was. I really wish they was. I really do. I really do. I wish that they were able to just understand that there's more people out there in the world that need to make it. It's not just all about them. I need y'all to understand that we're in this together. We're all, if we are individually walking into a room full of white people, they will make sure by the end of the night, especially if you look bad, especially if you look clean as fuck, they will make sure that you know that you are literally the minority in here. At least that's where all the places I've been that are all white. I don't know. I've never been to Washington. I don't know about you, Elle, but he's saying that there's no racism in Washington. Like it's saved or something. I've heard other stories, actually really scary stories about Washington.
Said there is racism.
So I've heard some stories, bro. I'm not
especially
too
in Seattle.
I'm gonna need some more information.
I know a few people in Seattle, and
they've been going through it. I heard some people going through it. I've heard it's separated. I heard there's a good side and then there's a bad side. That's what I heard. But I mean, you know, I'm like I said, I haven't been there. I haven't been through it, but I can't just cancel out other people's opinions so easily. So I'm just going by what Elle said. She had it like perfect. Like that, she just chef's kiss. Elle, I love you to death because oh my gosh.
In my tribe, there's.
Yeah, I think that speaks to the individual mindset and mentality that a lot of our men have. I don't think they think of the collective or the community at all. They just go based on what they feel is best for them and later for everyone else. And that's very problematic because you can't be respectful or try to love and build if you're only worried about yourself. But then when something happens to them, they expect the community to rally around them.
Yeah, I think that that's exactly like, let me find out his name. I'm going to look up his name and get it to you guys in a second. A young man, like I said, was killed a couple months ago. He was known for having a strong dislike of Black women.
Oh, yeah.
And,
oh, yes,
yeah,
yes.
he was
Toby,
yeah. Let me see his full name. And I'm not sure. Let me know, Joyce, if you have an update on this. But I still think to this day she's out and about living her life.
Oh, yeah, she is living her best life. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I haven't heard any updates, but the last update, which was around the time it happened, she was out and about making videos on OnlyFans and going on about her life. Yeah.
Oh my
Okay,
god,
so
did you
just
hear
to
about
let
the
everybody
lady
know,
that did that to Emmett Till?
Huh?
Did you guys hear about Carolyn Bryant? I think that was her name. The woman who got Emmett Till killed. They're finally after her. The family finally was able to come across some funds to be able to sue and to find justice. So they're looking for her currently. And I don't know if you guys are following that shit, but I'm so excited. I do not care how old this lady is. I no fucks are given. They need to find that lady like stat.
Yeah, I think that it will be a big wake up call, because what we don't realize too, they make it seem so far removed. Like I think I was like 2 years younger when I found out Ruby Bridges was still alive. You know, like they make it seem like this was so long ago that, you know, like, yes, she's still alive. And I think it would be a walking example to those of them that are still alive. You know, like a lot of the people that we see in those pictures from the civil rights movement and stuff, they're still alive. Some of them made it to the Supreme Court. Some of them are judges, you know. And I think that that is a good way to, at least as a Black community, instill some kind of thought of, no, we're not going to let it go. So as long as you're still here trying to make sure these things keep going, we're not letting it go and we're coming for you. You know, and I think that that is a great example. And just to be clear, because I do want to be somewhat respectful and say his name. His name is Christian Toby Abumseli. And yeah, just for those that don't know the story, he was very adamant about, you know, displaying his dislike for Black women on his social media, and was dating an OnlyFans star who is a white blonde model, and he was like very proud, you know, and all this stuff. And then she ended up stabbing him to death in their apartment or a hotel in Miami. She got out literally. I don't think she ever really went to jail. I think they like took her to go somewhere to clean off because she had all his blood on her, and then she's been walking around free ever since. And so with that, nobody, no black men reporters care. They didn't say anything. But then there was an uproar of black women because, like Joyce always says, there's this nature in us to protect. So of course we're the first ones on it. We heard about it. We're talking about it. And there was a collective, like you say, there's no community, where the community of black women decided from all different walks of life in America that we were not going to fight for him, because in life he was not fighting for us. In death, we're going to go ahead and respect that opinion. And to be frank, it seems like it was needed because she's still walking around free. And then the only time I heard black men talking about it was to say, well, it's wrong for black women to not fight for him. But since black women still stuck to their roots and said, well, I'm not going to fight for him, he hasn't been fought for since. I know that there's a few black men in here that are saying, or men in general, that might just be hearing this story for the first time, and you're still hearing it from black women. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, that individual mindset that they don't really speak up or fight for themselves. I think they're used to hiding. Sorry about that. I got a phone call. But yeah, I think our men are used to hiding behind us and just riding us into the sunset. We've been mewing for centuries, and the gig is up.
I think that is exactly what we're seeing. And the fact that you're seeing more outrage that black women aren't doing it for them than that it happened in general. Because this is where one of those situations where they desperately want to make it an all women thing. But black women are forcing them, no, 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 no. What did he say? Because he was saying how violent, how loud, how this and that black women were, just to go get with a white woman that was actually like that, and then violent and abusive, and then killed him. And it's not fair. I don't think there are people like saying, oh, so now somebody deserves to die. There is no black woman in the world, even with Kevin Samuels, that said he deserved to die, that he deserved to die. But we're saying there's no pity on this side. And you can't force somebody to feel like it's the same way. When Hitler died, if you were to go up, and it's not like the same way, it's definitely not the same comparison. But I'm saying, and asking somebody to have empathy for somebody that took place or took part in oppressing them is the most abusive thing I've ever seen, and they'll do it and not realize it. It's like when you're in a abusive relationship and they do something rude to you, so you say, well, I don't like that. And just like the Karen, they say, well, I'm actually so scared and I'm so nervous. And it's like, you're not gonna, it's a way to distract from the real issue. And the real issue was, well, I'm not gonna fight for him, but I just think it's weird that you're not. I was never going to protest, but I was just saying, why aren't you?
Right. Oh.
Storm Ready, I see you got one more comment. Hopefully you learned something. I see you didn't answer my question at all, so I can see that the answer is nothing, but go ahead.
What are y'all doing for the black community? And where are you from, Ms. Green? Because you seem to like to know where everybody from. Where you from and what you doing for your community? And I could tell you what I'm doing for my community. I help the homeless. I feed the homeless shelters. Go there. I go heal the people on the street, the crackheads, the drug heads. So I'm doing my part. What are you doing?
My dear, you do not know me, but I know you very well. Now let me tell you that I Ever heard Joe say you could tell somebody's lying because they stutter? Well, that's a good example. So one response, I never asked you at all to be here, let alone asked you where you were from. That never came out of my mouth. So we can just end that right there. I can give you a list of things I'm doing for my community. I feel like you can just tell from my aura that you already know the answer to your own question. But I'll keep it simple and say I'm having a talk with people in my community right now to better it. That is more than enough for me. Go
And
ahead
to make
and send
sure
your
I'm
next message.
clear, I never asked you where you lived. I said I didn't know where you lived, but
Yeah, I
and
don't think
I
anybody
was
ever
not.
asked him for anything.
I never.
Nobody ever asked you for anything. I see that all of a sudden these messages pop up. So let me try to get through some of them.
Question. Joyce, Elle Green, and Queen Bye or whatever. Do y'all live in the hood? I'm talking about in a bad neighborhood. Do any three? I know Joyce don't, so Joyce, she ain't gotta say nothing. Elle Green, do you live in a bad neighborhood? And Queen Bye, do y'all live in bad neighborhoods? That's a good question.
And another voice note. What is your point asking that before I answer? Because I have no problem talking about myself. But what is your point? Like, I'm trying to figure out like what the fuck you're talking about. This what?
I'd say first, don't try to be the victim and say, well, this happened in the past, so let's get past it.
Fox, you can go ahead and just never return. Thank you.
Hold on, whoa. Explain that story again. You say he dogged black woman and messed with a white woman. Why would any black woman take up for him? That sound like it's craziness to me. He got what he deserved. Peace. This is what you wanted. This is what you got. Like I'm not going. No, I'm not taking that for him. No sir. I don't dog black women. I got a black wife, black daughters, black mother, black cousins, black aunts. I would never dog a black woman at all. Point blank period. Let's get that out the way straight. And I'm not dogging neither one of y'all. My whole issue is when you talk about community, I know families that don't even get along. So do I expect a community to get along or have a same foundations and all that? No. Everybody do their own thing and everybody rise on their own way. That's the way I take it.
Once again, that was never the
Oh,
conversation. Communities do have their own thoughts. Communities do their own thing. Can you please just look up community so we don't have to keep going through this? Please and thank you.
I'm sorry, sir, but you're an adult, aren't you? An adult. When you're an adult, when do you really know you're an adult? You know you're an adult when things happen and you're like, well, damn, all this stuff is going on, but I still got to do what the fuck I got to do, don't I? And you do it because if you don't, there's consequences to that, right? Come on, it's not that hard. It really isn't. I don't get why you're making this difficult. I don't.
It's like
It's not pulling hen's teeth. I promise you guys. It's not. No, you don't have to get along to accomplish something together. People put aside their differences to get things accomplished all the times, all the fucking time. So I don't get it all the fucking times. Okay, I don't want to hear all that.
Okay, so just a little update, you guys. I'm gonna go ahead and get through the rest of these messages. I'm gonna go ahead and give Chyna and Joyce their final thoughts. So right now will be the chance to send a final thought message if you have it. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, except for Storm Ready.
I like what Joyce said. She said like we always feel like this need to protect or to nurture. And honestly, that's just in our blood because if you think about it, back in the day we was nurturing and raising uh, the rapist child or something like that, the master's child. That wasn't no kin to us, you know what I'm saying? We were just a help. What do they call those breastfeeding moms and stuff, like giving your energy and your nutrition to a life that's one day gonna grow up and possibly hate you or want to kill your children and your grandchildren. And also to the J.L podcast, one of her friends said when she was like 19, I think, or something like that, she got raped. And when they found the boy or whatever, she said, well, just out of like being a black woman, she wanted to make sure he got therapy. It's like, you don't want any charges? You don't want to do anything? You want to go to jail? No, I want therapy for him because I care about him. Her own rapist, though. Like, how? That's us.
Exactly. If you even hear in the Megan Thee Stallion story, a lot of people were like, "Well, why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you say anything?" And when she says that I was trying to protect us, like even if I just got shot, I didn't want anybody to get fatally shot. That is the heart of Black women, and that is not even if it's not in your heart. That's how we are told we are supposed to be, is completely selfless. And if you ever see a woman being selfish, we got all kinds of stuff to say about her. But when we see a man being selfish, that's a boss. That man is about his shit. He's motivated, he's organized, he knows what he wants, he knows how to get what he wants. But when you see a woman doing that, it's like, but she's not thinking about her community, she's not thinking about her family, she's not thinking about her this, she's not thinking about this. It's very, very prominent.
That's the nitpicking for me.
My goodness, let's not talk about Kevin Samuels. I read posts and heard a lot of Black women say he deserved what he got and this and that. So I don't, listen, everybody's a free agent. No such thing as no community. Everybody rise their family, rise their business, rise their kids, rise their husband or wife. And you keep it pushing from there. And whoever around you, you deal with them, your inner circle. But having the communities, you can't trust.
Elle Green, Joyce, Queen Bynum, thank you so much for tonight. The gems that were dropped, I will take for a lifetime. You did your thing. I'm here for support, and thank you so much for the clarity you dropped tonight. I hope you all stay blessed, and thank you to the listeners for tuning in.
Thank you so much for being here. And also, that video, I'm going to take some time to watch it tonight, and then I'm going to try to schedule a talk. Hopefully, everybody that's on the panel now can be back, so I'll send the invites. And Peteski, I would love to invite you to the conversation about white people talking to white people and our opinions as minorities on that. You know, I like to think that we've got a good amount of representation. We've got Blackness and Black women. We've also got queerness. We've also got the Latin community. And I would love to continue to keep this discussion amongst people of color and oppressed people going. My priority will always be Black women. But I understand that in order for one community to flourish, there has to be similar goals against the oppression of all the communities. So this is always an open talk, always an open chat. So at this point in time, I would like to give the floor to Chyna and Joyce to go ahead and say their last comments. And hopefully whoever's laughing is watching the goddamn motherfucking video. All right, go ahead, y'all.
This was a wonderful show. Thank you for having me, Elle. I look forward to the next talk. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Just want to shout out Philo down there, Pete Ski, Icon. I appreciate y'all. Okay, and Storm, of course, Storm Ready. I definitely appreciate you, homie. Honestly, you probably just brought up some points that there are a lot of other people that probably have that same mindset. So you brought up those points that some people just they don't know, so they just say whatever, and hopefully somebody was listening, or maybe someone else will listen to this one day. This is recorded, so I appreciate you and your strange mind. I don't quite understand it, but I'm sure someone else thinks that way, and I hope they learn something from our responses to what you said. And I appreciate you. I feel like you think I'm hilarious, so you just like laughing at me. So I appreciate you for that. That love.
He's being a little silly Billy. He's being a
I
little
just
silly
appreciate the
Billy.
love. You know what I mean? He laughs at my jokes. Oh my god.
That is hard to find nowadays. I be
I feel
thinking
the
I'm
love.
funny. Silence. But okay, so just to go ahead and wrap it up, I'll go ahead and say my final thoughts. So first, just to follow up, I want to thank Joyce, Chyna, Bay, Pete Ski, Philo. Chyna's a lot nicer than me. So what I will say about Storm Ready and all that stuff is, because everybody else was a like-minded individual, so I'm talking to you guys. What I really want us to take from these talks is not only the knowledge, but the power that comes with it. And when you know what you know, do not let anybody try to stray you away from that, because I do believe that people know what they're doing. I don't disagree with correction. And in my personal life, I feel like I go out of my way to try to create teaching moments if they could be there. But I will never stress myself out about somebody that is trying to be against me, no matter what the case is. So, like, even when we were like, I don't think anybody deserves to die, Storm Ready was like, well, that guy deserved what he got. And then he was talking about Kevin Samuels, and he was like, well, he didn't deserve what he. All I want to see in our community is an understanding, knowledge, and for us to come together as Black men and Black women to fight this oppression. Because what I'm thinking about is I would hate for my daughter to have to come up in this world and feel like she's not pretty the way that I did for the first 18, 19 years of my life. Simple things like that, or not wanting my son to have to grow up in a world where he feels like he has to hate himself to accomplish anything, or even going deeper than that and feel like I contributed to a world to where my kids or their kids can be shot down in the street at a random traffic stop just because. One thing I want to point out to everybody is that these people that are being affected by it, they are scholars, they are mothers, they are teachers, they are daughters, they are friends that are being erased. And I think that that is important. And so when you see people come into your spaces trying to erase your voice, I think that it's incredibly important to make sure you stand your ground. The way that I am is a very either you're for or against. There is no gray area. If I talk to you for however long and you haven't made a decision, then you made a decision. And I don't think that you have to be that extreme, but I do think that it's going to take some firmness to be able to get where we're trying to go as a community. So once again, I want to thank everybody. I hope everybody took some gems. I definitely did. We're going to be
Thank you,
having
Elle.
another
I
talk
really
to make
appreciate
sure.
this.
Yeah, thank you for being here. I really appreciate all the new perspectives, and hopefully we can have more. There's going to be another talk sometime tomorrow about the video that Peasky sent. So if you want to be a part of the talk or you want the link that he sent, please let me know. And I hope that you guys all have a great day. So as everybody's leaving
No problem.
and the panel is disembarging, I'll play the rest of Where You From Homies messages as a great little credit screen. Thank you guys for coming.
Yup, I sent another message. There's nothing you can do but just scream like a maniac like you did with Storm Ready, because you're not going to convince me of any of your bullshit, so scream all you want. It's not. So what are you going to do, start screaming like a maniac? Is that going to make me leave? Come on, sweetheart. Get out of here. And I'm not trying to argue with Joyce. I mean, I didn't say anything that was like crazy, so I don't know why you're trying to come at me. But yeah, that's my name, homie. You don't like that, right?
I'm a maniac, on no roll. Yeah. All right. Thank you guys for coming. Hopefully I'll see you guys tomorrow.